Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the After Hours SEO podcast. We've got a special episode for you guys today because we have our very first guest, Sam Penny. Now, if you haven't heard about Sam before, he's a senior SEO specialist. He used to be the SEO lead, I believe, at Optimizing.
Yeah.
And then now he's the SEO manager at Rest Super Fund, which is a superannuation fund, one of the biggest here in Australia. So Sam, I'll leave the floor to you to introduce yourself to our guests. Great to have you here on the podcast today.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. Wow. Yeah. I'm the SEO manager at Rest Super. Got to make it super clear, like no pun intended, that I don't speak on behalf of Rest. Just have to get like the legal thing out of the way.
Advice.
Yeah, this is not financial advice. SEO manager at Rest. Like they're one of the largest super funds in Australia. They manage nearly $100 billion. We've got more than 2 million members. Like you said, before that, I was senior SEO lead at Optimizing. It's like actually 100 meters here from the studio. So it was nice to be background in
full circle
Richmond
moment.
again.
Yeah, back in.
And they're kind of like I guess more lean on the technical side of SEO, more sort of e-com. And then before that, I worked for a publishing company called Monkey Media, which actually recently got acquired. So I was kind of like the digital manager there. So nearly like basically around 10 years in digital now. So looking forward to chatting to you guys. Yeah, I know. It's nuts. I know, like with nearly a decade of experience.
Yeah. Do you round up at 9 years? I think you do a little bit.
I think you round up at around 7,
I'm actually curious, how did you two meet? What's the story between
I was just going to bring it up. I think it was at when it was called SEO Meetup.
Yeah, the Melbourne SEO Meetup.
Probably at one of the older places they had it. This was probably really early days for me when I was still an SEO specialist at Studio Hawk 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then we've both been around in that community.
Seen each other a few times, but then when the idea came up, it's like, let's have a guest on board. My Rolodex of SEO specialists, especially talking to someone in-house as well, my mind instantly went to you, which is funny because you meet someone 5 or 6 years ago, you've had a couple interactions, and you may think, oh, this person would be perfect because I know you love to chat about SEO. You've got good opinions about it, and you've worked with both agency side and in-house. So I thought it'd be a really interesting conversation, especially now, today, in this week where. I think for you, I don't know, I'm a little bit tired this week because there's a lot of action going on in the SEO community, just general AI talk as well. I'm sure we're going to bring that up. So I'm ready to hear it, especially from both sides of the angles, because in-house and agency, there's a lot of movement going on.
It's wildly different. Like that's definitely been a learning curve for me. I remember meeting you for the first time. And I think I'm sitting behind you maybe when like Aladia came to speak, and it was in that like bar on the second floor. And
I remember that.
I remember you were kind of like, you were sort of, one of those, like, I think they call them like a poof or something like that. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like it's like I think that's what my mom and dad call. I'm saying that, and I'm like, maybe that was just in our house. Like it's it's kind of like a footrest, like a big one for like a leather sofa.
Yeah,
and you were on that, but like you were completely laid down, and you had your MacBook on your knees, and you were like, I could see like the WordPress backend, and it's like 8 p.m. on a Tuesday or something like that. And like
I was on that grind.
I was like, damn, this guy's dedicated.
And later that night, I hit Tinder really hard. I remember that because I was sitting next to Harry, our founder, and we were both single at the time. And we're just, as we're watching the SEO talks go on, we're just a little bit of that,
Damn, okay.
I'm happily married now, so
yeah,
we're all good.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
It's funny how literally a night like that is so memorable in a weird SEO / human way as well.
Yeah,
such a like Lawrence thing to. Like working like this.
Yeah, you were completely like, it was just your head up like that, and you were
just chilling.
I just remember you were good to chat to. That's as well. That's funny.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's so
nice. Oh well, we're sharing some fun memories here today, but to get into the meat and bones of today's conversation, Sam has a wealth of experience that we'd love to explore and dive deep into.
100%.
And the main topic of today's pod is more so centered around AI and how we can use AI in today's SEO environment. Where are we at today? What's going to work in today's environment, as well as what you're seeing in the future. But before we dive into all of that fun stuff, we want to learn a little bit more about what you've learned at Optimizing. So you used to be there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
What were the top 3 things that you think our viewers could take away in terms of lessons that you learned at Optimizing?
Yeah, interesting. Like, it's funny because that was definitely a different part of my career. Like, anybody who's worked agency and in-house knows it's like a super different environment, and it's really good to see agencies from the other side, because you have that knowledge of how agencies work, and then you can see, like, I think agency side, you've always got to be the expert, and there's always like, so you can see that from the other side, from those sort of interactions. I think probably at Optimizing, one of the key things that I learned is that SEO is part of a broader business strategy, right? And when you go in and you speak to a business owner, you have to really understand their story and what they're trying to achieve with search. And it's very, very tempting, and as an SEO, to just crawl a website, plug it into Screaming Frog, go on it and have a look and just like tear the whole thing down and spit out like a huge amount of recommendations. But the reality is you have to ask those questions, like, what dev capabilities do you have? What content do you have? And also, I used to just prime people and say, like, I think SEO is a lot. They go, you spend 10 times on paid what you spend on SEO, but the ROI is huge. Like, the reality is that SEO is actually, it's expensive and it's slow. And for me, it was just to understand the business, one, and then also prime them and say, like, this is how you're going to get the best out of me, and say, if you can unblock me on content, if you can unblock me on dev, we're going to get 10 times the amount done.
Yeah. So, like, I guess framing the pace of SEO to your actual client, and then also, I guess, letting them get out of your way because you're the expert in order to push things through faster, just to let you do your thing.
Yeah,
Is that
for sure.
What you're saying?
Yeah, for sure. And also as well, just I think because SEO can be very technical sometimes, and it can be seen as like a little bit of a, dark art, or definitely business owners see it that way. Like, I think it's very, very easy to kind of lean into that rather than working with a business owner and kind of explaining the mechanism of how it works,
Yeah, definitely. I think Lawrence and I talk about that a lot, how there's
Yes.
so much mysticism around SEO. It's
for sure.
It's almost like magic to some people, right?
Yeah,
So you
for
use the word
sure.
unblock. Is that a SEO sort of unblock the crawlers pun, or
No,
it's just
no
a
fun at
a
all.
priming word?
No fun at all.
So you clued into really more of the client communications, or just the communications in general, to really push things through rather than presenting like a mathematical equation for SEO. Is that how you dealt with getting things through and getting results?
And I think it's also like recognizing what's going to help a business owner in that moment, rather than trying to push through your agenda. Being realistic about what they can achieve and being realistic about what's going to be useful to them. Like, I think a lot of business owners go in and they're like, I need an audit, and it's like, you've got 20 pages. Like, what could be going wrong? Do you know what I mean? There's like really, really guiding a business owner on what they need, rather than kind of hiding behind SEO as some kind of like, dark art or something like that.
Can I ask you as well, Sam? Like, when you do that, you're like, business owner comes in, hey, my objective is I want to get 20,000 visitors per month to my site, and I want to generate $1 million in revenue. And you say to them, John, I think that's, fantastic, but you're giving me a 1 year time frame. Realistically, what I need is maybe like 3 years. And in that time frame, I can only probably get you 6,000 organic visitors per month and half of that revenue. When you say that to them, do you find that a lot of business owners pull out because their targets weren't as achievable as they first initially thought when they first came to you?
I think like agency side, I was very lucky in that the guys at Optimizing were really good at priming people and sort of setting expectations and things like that. Like, I think that is the difference between being agency and in-house, right? Like agency, a lot of people have already done the selling for you. And if you have somebody who has that really great balance of like if they're not just chasing leads desperately and saying, yeah, we can 10x your revenue or whatever, and they're being realistic about the growth and they know about search rather than just really pushing for sales, I think a lot of the expectation setting has been done for you. And as long as you're kind of tied into what they want to achieve, I think it can be pretty smooth. Whereas if I contrast it with being in-house, like what I suppose I didn't realize about being in-house is like, there are a lot of people that just won't even know what SEO is, you know? So when you go to XYZ team and say, hey, I want to do this, and they go, well, you know, we're in Q2 already and we've had this locked in for 18 months. Like, what are you going to do for me? And it's like, actually, you spend a lot of time sort of selling your initiatives and, you know, and like, that's the, like actually being able to make projections and be realistic and see where SEO is a growth opportunity, you know, because sometimes it might not be the best ROI or the best place to focus on considering resources. Like, I think that's the kind of real art.
Definitely. I think that's a like hallmark sign of a really mature SEO as well, is when you're really young in your career, you're very like, let me do whatever I can to game the SEO system. Let me cram keywords in. Like, I don't care about UX. Let's smash backlinks. Yeah. But then as you get older, you realize that like you're really dealing with a human being on the other side in a real business.
Good point, for sure.
And you really need to like look at it from a holistic point of view, right?
People just want to work with people they like. So I think genuinely, and I've talked about this before in separate channels, it's just, you know, if you're communicating well with someone, you can actually get results just purely through having a really solid relationship. Because if they trust you, they're going to be more likely to do the things that you ask of them, right? So when it comes to like saying, hey, no to this migration because it's going to impact the results, if they trust you because they feel that deep sense of expertise, plus you have their back as a business owner or even like a massive corporate company, they go, you know what, we maybe should double think this. Because the number of times you experience, hey, we've got a migration in a month, literally, and it's a $100,000 website, and they haven't talked to you first because they just don't refer to the expertise within the business.
Oh,
I don't know if has this happened to you?
The best is, so we're migrating tomorrow morning. Is there anything we need to do from like an SEO point of view? Like, are the URLs the same? I don't think so. I'll ask the devs.
SEO catastrophe.
Happens so much. You know?
It's
2 week
crazy.
turnarounds, 1 week turnarounds. It's happening tomorrow. It's these are critical business decisions, and if they're not involving some level of SEO expert within the business, especially if you're quite large, if you're a household name in Australia and you don't have an SEO team, it's like at this day and age, like what are you doing really? Like you got to have some component or someone who just knows what to do in those situations. You know, in America they have Walmart and a lot of these big providers, they got 10 people working on an SEO team. And Australia's really far behind in that aspect.
Biggest companies in Australia literally have like one SEO manager and like that's it. Maybe some agency support.
But I think in spaces like finance, financial health, they do, you know, it's obviously why you have this in-house role is because they actually, there's a lot at stake, especially in insurance as well, things like that. But it's good to see. It like fundamentally it is good to see.
I got a number for you, which is pretty interesting. You know, Canva? I think they have more than 150 SEOs.
What?
Yep.
That's pretty
I've been through their LinkedIn. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, 150.
To do what?
At all levels, like
Link
content.
outreach?
Yep,
like,
links
Yeah,
is a big
I
part.
think, I think they have whole teams for keyword research. Like,
You ever see that case study? It was one of like the first product-led SEO case studies where they talked about how they built out template pages. Like this is one of the first big waves of this talk going through the industry, and the links they got off that was insane. Just been building out templates for Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, cards, any type of postcard. They were just building out templates like crazy, and the effects speak for themselves. They're billions of dollars.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it makes sense. They have a massive SEO team.
Yeah, how nice would that be working with like 150 other SEOs rather than being like the sole SME, you know?
Yeah, that's like one of the hardest parts of being an SEO sometimes, especially in-house, is like there's no other use around. No one gets you, or very, very few people get you.
But it can be a good thing. You know, you're a little solo operator.
Yeah.
You know, they pull you in when there's big things happening and you get to like show your piece. I got a question actually. What's the biggest thing you've gone into bat for now being in-house? Like you don't have to get into specifics, but have you really sort of gone to war in a lot of these situations and really put your case forward for the sake of the business?
I wouldn't really say like I've necessarily gone to war for anything. Like I think that for me, it's been more about like, I'm very lucky to have a lot of support in terms of people being on the same page about like, you know, things like putting the user first and the importance of content just in general. Like I'm a big believer in even like top of funnel content, especially at that enterprise level. Like I think it's so incredibly important. And then also just I guess getting the message across about like Search Console. Like I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's like a lot of people don't even really like other digital managers might not really lean on Search Console. And it's such a like people go hard into like SEMrush and Ahrefs and like Google Keyword Planner. But if you have a big site, like the amount of data that you have in Google Search Console is like absolutely insane, you know? And like there's just so much low hanging fruit there. And especially at like an enterprise level, even from like a documentation point of view, like I think for me, it's been more about fostering a culture of knowledge sharing around SEO data and reaching out to teams and saying, hey, like we have all this data. Would you like it? Do you want me to come and talk to you about how you can use it and how it can help you achieve your kind of KPIs? And that comes back to the holistic thing again that you were saying before about like SEO being a business practice and not just kind of a checklist. You know, there are so many different areas of a large business that can be that can benefit from SEO, and that's what's really powerful about it. But that's what also makes it very, very complicated when you're dealing with different teams, different KPIs, different leaders. You know, it's.
I think that's a really good approach to say, I got some data.
That's it.
Yeah, because it could really help you. That's a really good way of dealing with internal stakeholder management. To just go, I got some stuff that you may want to see. It's up to you. It's your choice.
Sure.
I can come in and do a nice little,
you know, X amount increase in engagement, but you know, I just stumbled across it. Like
it might help you conversions. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And this is the thing as well. Like you know, in-house, I think you probably see it less agency side because people come to you with a budget. You know, they've got for this financial year we want to spend X amount. We have content writers and things like that. Ideally, when you're in-house, like there are limited resources and there are a lot of ideas, you know? So I always think that if you want to get SEO moving, especially as a channel that spans a lot of different stakeholders, like when you go to a team or when you ask for resources, it has to be an exchange that really benefits the person that you're asking for resources from, you know? So every time you go to a team, it's like, hey, I've got this giant gift and all I need is a tiny little one in return. Like, you know, sort of explaining the ROI to people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest advantages of SEO as well is there's so much data. It's easy to tell the story and it's not like with UX, for example, a lot of it is, I think adding this button here and then this specific design is going to increase the rate by this. Exactly.
This will feel right.
But with SEO, it's like search volume is here. I can see that the search volume growth is also growing. This is a page that we need to create because it's missing on the website. But Sam, you mentioned something that was really interesting. And I think Sam's background is also really interesting because he has an honors in literature.
Yeah,
believe,
okay.
right?
You did your research, literature and politics.
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting background to have because content is so important to SEO. So Sam, what are you doing at Rest, if you are happy to share, that's been really successful from the content side? Like what are you seeing is really working to drive results?
Yeah, I think like not necessarily just at Rest, but like the approach in general. Like and also just to address what you said, like literature as a background is very is very, very useful. And I worked for a while as a journalist as well. So like being in that kind of environment, I just think is so useful to like, I don't know, just be able to proofread something and give feedback. And yeah, I think it's super valuable. But I think what really works is one, being data driven, like I said, using Search Console, looking what are people actually searching for and prioritizing your efforts in terms of like ROI largely, and then also taking a few bets as well. Like I think people could be searching for this, but then also just getting yourself in the mind of the user. And I think also as well, like what a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people do this, but I just do a lot of like XYZ Reddit, and I'll just look like what questions are people actually asking, so look for that kind of stuff that's like zero, you know what I mean? They call it
weird deranged patterns of asking questions.
Or just,
the question will be 30 words long.
Questions.
Long tail stuff. And like,
but Google will tell you the sentiment that it's trying to pull from it, right? Like it's whatever SERP it's appearing in should be the pillar keyword that it's trying to go for.
Yeah, for sure. Like even if you search, like I remember working with like a fitness client and we put together this piece of content, and it was like, I was literally just on like the fitness subreddit and I saw like 3 people asking like, which cardio machines burn the most calories? And there wasn't really any content on it. So I just pulled like a Harvard study, referenced that a bunch, put it up, and then like, within a month or 2 or something like that, it was doing like 10,000 visitors a month. So it's just that kind of stuff. It's like just using social listening tools and, using data to drive your content and like a little bit of common sense, I just think goes like a huge way,
Yeah, like take the keywords, but then also just do a little bit of randomness around it. Like one of those things you mentioned, I'm sure you didn't think too much about it, but then suddenly it's got 10,000 views coming through per month, and you're like, oh wow, something in the background wasn't going for a big keyword.
And it is a little bit like there is a science to it, but it's also a little bit of a game of probability, right? Like if you publish 10 pieces, like, you might get 4 that do really well, 4 that kind of, like second page, bottom of the first page, maybe if you have enough authority, and then some other that just like get no engagement, or maybe they're being cannibalized by another piece or something like that,
Yeah, and you find there's always one article that Google seems to really love on a website for just no practical reason.
Yeah,
on our website, it's an article about, is it good to use a dash or a underscore in URLs? For some reason, that article has ranked well for 10 years, basically. Wow. And I have no idea why. We are the authority in that article.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's wild. But no, it was a no-think thing, and it went up, and it's just ranked really well for years.
I think as well, like, to address that point, it's like, I think sometimes Google and other search engines don't see a reason to change the results very much. Like if something's satisfying intent really well, and it has done for a long time. Like I was looking at Stack Overflow because I wanted to look at, I just wanted to see how it had been doing, because I use AI so much for like coding. I just wanted to see what sort of trajectory it was on. And I saw one of the top keywords was just like A++, which is like from programming. Like, I'm not going to lie. And actually, I didn't actually look at what it meant. But the top article was Stack Overflow, and it was 14 years old. Wow. So it's just like, if there is a concept that you've explained really, really well, and it satisfies intent, and it's not, what they say, like, doesn't require freshness, it's not sort of topical, then I just like, why would they displace that top result if they're kind of like
playing it safe? That's a good point.
Yeah,
good enough.
Like if the signals are all there, like, And
I just want to highlight, it's been about 20 minutes, and it's the first mention of AI for some reason. I think the first proper mention of AI.
Yeah.
So should we dive in?
We should.
Right.
I'm so sorry. I actually am so interested in this topic. I'm going to ask one more question.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. So with blogs, I think there's a lot of mystery around how effective blogs actually are. Like you write blogs for 2 main reasons. Is like, one is because you actually want to drive more traffic to the site, gain more awareness for the brand, drive conversions, etc. And the other side is the topical authority side. Like you're trying to develop topical authority so you can pull up the entire website's rank.
Yeah.
So I guess in all of your years of experience, Sam, could you share with us your opinion on, do blogs actually help drive business outcomes aside from the topical authority part? like, do they actually help bring in real sales? Have you seen this?
Yeah, look, I think they do. Like, I think, I guess if we're presuming that when you say blog, you mean sort of more top of funnel stuff,
Yep.
start of the journey. Like,
Yep.
I think that blogs are an amazing opportunity for brand awareness. And I think so it's almost become a little bit of a dirty word in, digital marketing, SEO, go, oh, awareness. Like, you got this many impressions and business owners are like, oh, we want leads. And I think that is really, really important for business owners to make sure you're seeing those conversions and have that bottom of funnel stuff. But especially if you're like an enterprise business, right? Brand awareness is so important because 40% of your potential customers are not in market at any time, okay? Which is a huge proportion of these potential customers. So they're an amazing opportunity to stay top of mind, and people buy what they know,
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
if people, you're much more likely to buy a brand if you know a brand. And that's why the brands that have the highest brand awareness often have the highest levels of repeat purchases and stuff like that, because people just know them more. And it gets more complex with distribution and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think blogs have a lot of value if they're topical. They're a point to show somebody your brand and your logo to establish trust, and even just kind of small things like adding somebody to a remarketing list. And I think if you're operating at quite a high level when it comes to, I guess, more enterprise SEO, a lot of the marketing managers, they spend a lot on branding because they know it works. And I think blog content ties into that.
I was going to say as well, having a strong brand. If I'm scrolling through and I see an article, a very top of the funnel, what is type of article, and I see a really known brand, I probably will click on that article because it's coming from a brand that I know already. I want to see what they say. Now, I could be a buy searcher because I'm an SEO.
I know.
I want to see what's going on here. But then if I looked at a very small provider, I go, maybe I'm interested in the article as well. I used to be I was thinking in the cars, do I believe in blogs anymore? And I do, for the fact, I used to think, and I used to say, yeah, we can get sales through these blogs. Now I don't really focus on that anymore. I'm just more it's building topical authority. It's building, like you said, brand awareness, which is so key. You're top of mind. You're in the SERP somewhere, even in the top 10, people can see the name. And when they're through, going through the industry and looking for other topics or looking for other information, they see your name again. They go, this must be pretty quality. I might check out this website.
I actually really like what Sam was saying, and I never considered it from that perspective as well, where the main purpose for a lot of blogs is not to sell you straight away. And I think a lot of marketers, when they begin, they try to go on the first date and get you to marry straight away. But I think there was a stat, it's you need to see a business 7 times before you feel comfortable enough to make a purchase. So that first interaction needs to be the blog has to look good, the website needs to look nice, information must be valuable. And then when they keep interacting with your business, even though they're not buying, they're preparing themselves to make a purchase. So it might not be now, might not be in 6 months, but they've seen your brand a couple of times for the past 6 months. And when it comes time to purchase, they're like, oh man, that brand has written a lot of good stuff. They must know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You meet someone 5 years ago at a SEO.
Yeah.
You want to jump on a podcast. It's a brand awareness.
You probably see me on LinkedIn a little bit
I
as
do,
well,
yeah.
Posting and popping up and stuff like that.
I recognize your headshot. It's got the blue behind it.
I know. I need to change that soon.
But those little signals, funnily enough, are super important.
Because I was top of mind.
Top of mind. Yeah, exactly. It was top of mind. So it works on a personal and also brand perspective.
And I think as well, trust, credibility, and I think it's also just kind of a memory thing, a recency bias. I'm pretty sure there's some statistic around advertising that's very similar, that it's you need to see it half a dozen times before you even remember it, And we've probably all had that where you go, oh, do you know Studio Hawk? And you go, oh yeah, I think I do know them. And it's just seeing a brand in all these different contexts helps reestablish that memory. And when you go to get somebody on your podcast, or I need an agency, it's just well, who can I think of? And then you reach out to them. So I think there's a much higher level brand value to blogs, particularly at the enterprise level.
So interesting. I feel like in today's society, a lot of people, even though they have access to a wealth of information, a lot of people are not actually well-researched buyers, because by the end of the day, you're so overloaded with the amount of like TikToks you've watched, with the amount of news you're being bombarded with, the amount of notifications that are on your phone. A lot of shoppers are actually convenience shoppers. So
I totally agree. Yeah.
if
Your
you're
brain's
top of
taking
mind,
shortcuts.
Yeah.
It's
I need an SEO specialist. I see Sam. I'm just going to message him. Like, you're not going to look through 100
I need to buy
different SEO
sneakers. I
proposals.
go to Hype.
Yeah.
You know, I just go to
see the
automatic.
ad.
Yeah, I go to automatically what my brain, my monkey brain tells me is the most logical thing to resolve my issue.
Yeah. Like you might assess like 4 or 5 options, but if you're not in that like top of mind section, like you're not even going to be considered. Like you're not an option.
Yeah, the top
essentially.
3, the top 4, 5.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Now, I know this whole thing was supposed to be about AI. We barely touched on AI.
I think that's an achievement, actually. That's an achievement in this day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But Sam, you spoke about how AI is becoming a big part of your everyday. Can you share with us, how are you using AI in today's environment, and what are some of the things that you're seeing that can drive really big results from using AI?
Yeah. So, I'll start with how I'm using AI, and then you'll probably have to remind me the second part of the question. But from how I'm using AI, I'd say I'm using it more from like a process point of view at the moment. Like, I'm using it to do things like write Python scripts, or like I've even built like my own Chrome plugins, like, just to make workflows easier and things like that. And it helps that I've got a fundamental understanding of how most things works, like, websites and servers. And, I learned HTML and CSS from like building my own websites and like probably breaking more websites than I built, to be honest. But I think, I'm using it more from a process point of view, and it's just making things faster. Like, I think Sally Mills spoke about this at the Sydney SEO conference, like not the recent one, but the year before, and just using things like migrating some URLs. Like I need to match them up. I'll use like a fuzzy match. And previously I would have spent like a whole day. I would have been on Stack Overflow, reading blogs, like maybe even posting on Stack Overflow. Whereas now you can just go into like whatever AI tool and be like, hey, how do I do this? It spits out a script. I think it's got to the point where it like works perfectly, like nearly, first time. Most of the time you have to tweak it like a little bit, and it's taking me 15 minutes to do something that could have taken like 4 hours of solid work, which is kind of nuts. Like how much
Crazy.
And then like, there's also just things like, when you just sort of, you've got a bunch of information and you feel like everything's all over the place, you just pull it into bullet points and you're like, just clean this up for me. Like, what am I trying to say? Like,
tidy this up.
Yeah, there's just stuff like that. And it's like, I'd say my output is very similar. I'm just doing it a lot faster. And with some things, the cognitive load is a lot less. So I feel like I'm getting a lot more done using AI tools.
Definitely. One of the things or the frames that I always use is, if this is a really repetitive, simple task, I can probably use AI to create a script to make this process repeatable, but also like very, very fast, or templated approach. Like one of the websites that I'm working on right now, these motherfuckers are doing a negative SEO attack on it. Oh, so annoying.
We were talking about this in another podcast.
Yeah, we were.
Negative.
And they're actually doing it to me now.
Oh, crap.
Like
Tell us about it.
We're in like a pretty like gray niche. So
you're in a war.
Sorry?
You're going to war.
Yeah,
Let's
we're going to war.
Let's go. Don't worry, we got your back. We got your back.
This is why you're asking me what I've gone to war for before.
Exactly.
Like a war theme. Yeah, okay.
But like they're spamming us with like sex toy, casino.
Oh, damn.
And exact match anchor text. So they're destroying like, our backlink profile. So what I did was I made a script using AI that would automatically detect which backlinks were the ones that we've built and that we previously had before the attack. So then whenever I just go in every day now, I export the backlink profile of
Wait, where are you pulling that from? Oh, Ahrefs.
Ahrefs. Cool. And then I just import it into the template, and it tells me straight away what new domains were added that do not belong to my original list, or the list that I've had new backlinks like coming in, and it automatically signals out these are the domains that are from that competitor, or just junk. and then I just immediately disavow it. So it takes like this really complicated, very slow manual process to now it takes me 10 seconds. I just export, put it in, bam, disavow, cool.
Real quick, have you used link research tools or have you heard of it? Have you heard of it?
Link research
I've
tools?
never heard
It is a very heavy, advanced link analysis tool that might really help you because it goes very deep. Like Ahrefs and SEMrush just take a very superficial view, but there's more shit in the background that you can't see because the website, you know, they talk about the deep web. There's there's trillions of websites out there that you can never see. Check out link research tools. Shout out to them. I've used it before, but for those very particular link scenarios, very, very good.
Yeah, I definitely have to check that out because, oh man, we're getting into negative SEO tactics now. But one of the really clever ways to make sure your competitors never know about your negative SEO attack is to make sure that you block the crawlers from SEMrush and Ahrefs, and then you create like all of these websites that will then have negative SEO links to your competitor, and they will never find them. Unless they're really tech savvy.
Right.
See, like the porn ones and stuff, I don't worry about too much. Like I would get more nervous if like somebody was buying links that like look kind of convincing, but then also on the edge of like a PBN. Do you know, like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody looked like they were doing a bad job of SEO, like I feel like that's when I would start to worry about disavowing. You know, let's say if you're working like a mortgage broker or something like that, and it's like, you know, top mortgage brokers in Australia. And then the next article is like, you know, digital trends. Like that's when I would really start to worry if it so not to give people negative SEO ideas, but I would say like try and do SEO links badly.
Make them look good. Convincing.
I was thinking about this as well because like while I was defending against this attack, I was thinking about other ways that they were trying to.
I can imagine you at your computer just like on defense.
Like I'm thinking like a Norse helmet on, like a big fur coat,
just madly typing, scripting things out, and just like that's it.
And I was thinking of like creative ways not to like flood the internet with creative negative SEO tactics again. But like you were saying, Sam and Lawrence, like a really clever way of doing it is not to brute force build negative links. You need to make them undetectable or extremely hard to detect. And how you do that is you mix them in with legitimate anchors. So they have legitimate anchors like top insurance firm. And then what you want to do is you want to scrape the list of their most important anchors and then slowly over time drip in more like, you know, almost looking legit links into those anchors just to destroy their backlink anchor distribution. So what you're doing is you're spamming their pages with exact match anchors. This worked, by the way, because my site took a hit. So in less than a week. So you just hit the exact match anchor, and then they're going to be over optimized, and you just keep doing it. And if they're not super in the know of what backlinks they have built and which ones are legitimate, it's going to take them a long time to sift through all of the anchors to determine which link is legitimate and which is not. So anyway, I don't know if I should be sharing that, but that's a really creative way of destroying.
So these people are taking heavy time and, you know, quite sophisticated in some ways and quite nuanced approach to really negatively impact our website.
Yeah, the key to doing it is also finding a way to build automated backlinks at a very low cost. I know exactly what tool these guys are using, but the issue is like you can't really stop them.
No.
So
what's the thing about links, right? It's for bigger brands as well. They're defended because they're a bigger brand. Like you could throw a million PBNs at rest and probably nothing would happen. It would take an enormous amount and probably billions to really make a movement. But for small businesses, they're in a tough spot because they can be really hurt by this kind of stuff, and it's quite nefarious. But you know, the only thing you can do is just, you know, pull up your socks and just like keep going and keep building the brand. Let's keep going, keep doing the thing.
Yeah, there's literally like nothing a small business owner can do if you smash the local plumber with local plumber Melbourne 1,000 times. You spam that anchor, even if the links are bad, that website will tank. Like it will not hit the top 3. It will be in like bottom of page 1 maybe, even if it's a legitimate brand. Anyway, I don't know. We shouldn't be spreading this one.
We'll cut this out.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Let's talk about this after.
Yeah.
Cool. Where were we?
Terrible. AI. Cool. So you mentioned that you're using AI to build a lot of code and using it to speed up a lot of your workflows. Could you maybe share what type of like codes are you building, or what type of tools are you using to accelerate what specific workflows?
Yeah, sure. So like internally, like, day to day at work, we have a kind of internal version of ChatGPT because of like the data kind of considerations around using, external AI tools and things like that. So, using tools like that, and that's just for the, like sort of like I said, describe it as process stuff like emails, Jira tickets, like just, smoothing things over, like speeding up that process, writing things like, Python scripts, like dealing with Excel or, like CSV files kind of at scale, looking at like migrations and normalizing like data and things like that. The other things that I use are tools like Notebook LM. I don't know if you've used Notebook LM before, but this is like Google product that you can put pretty much any form of document, so like PDF, EPUB, YouTube video, audio in there. And then it's a large language model that keeps the entire PDF, it could be hundreds of pages, all these sources, in its context window. So it has a really big context window, and I think that's what sort of differentiates it. And you can have a conversation basically with the AI about the document, and it references that document really, really well. So if you have like
sorry to interrupt. So you're saying like you could put the entire like insurance PDS like into Notebook, and then
I did that with my
questions.
own insurance PDS the other day when one of my windscreen got cracked by like a rock, and I was just like putting it in, just like, am I covered for this? What's it going to cost me? Like, stuff like that. Yeah. And then you have a conversation with it.
Yeah. It's cool because it can blend all the documents, and I like the idea of just smashing all these PDFs and interesting documents together and just seeing what the LLM creates off that, pulling from various sources. Because, you look at one document, it's just going to tell you the same thing. And most LLMs will probably tell you the same thing in an analysis. But you blend two varying opinions together and you just see what happens. It's my favorite part of using those types of tools.
Yeah.
So this tool allows you to input your own sources of information, and then it then reads that sources of information as the truth, and then comes up with an answer.
And it's just really useful for things like, an article that's quite complicated, or even like patents and things like that Google put out, or research papers, or whole books and things like that. And you can just say to it like, what did they say about this? Or, when you've just read something and you kind of want to reflect on it a little bit, it's a really good way, and you just have a conversation with it and reflect on it and upload your notes in it, like, and it's free. It's really
free.
cool.
Wow.
And also, this is the coolest thing I haven't even mentioned yet. So let's say you put all your notes in there, it can generate a podcast that sounds genuinely like a podcast. And they're like, hey, today we're talking about the insurance PDS. Like, some really interesting stuff in here.
Yeah, two voices.
Let's dive in.
Oh, wow,
like,
really?
David
Attenborough and like Tony Stark or something.
There probably will be those options in the future.
Yeah.
It's like very generic. Like, it sounds like
pretty good.
American podcast host. Like, and they explain things and they use like metaphors and stuff. Like, it's really
They'll
interesting.
tell a narrative behind it. So I've loaded up even things from my personal life, like journal entries, and they'll talk. It's like, Lawrence is experiencing this. I'm like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, like, okay, I've done enough.
But
Free therapy right there.
it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend who's very like, I'm not putting anything up online about myself and social media. But I'm kind of like letting it go. I'm just like, put me into AI and just see what happens. I want this. What I find in the analysis that you get, or just asking it questions, I use AI tools very conversationally, more like my personality. Just what do you think about this? Or just give me some feedback with this, and just it takes me on these nice, cool journeys.
It's good to have that sounding board, especially because AI considers things from an enormously like wide lens. It considers like all factors that you should be looking at, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't consider that. I didn't consider that. And it's just such a helpful tool to build on what you're already trying to build. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's a good sounding board. I agree.
Yeah.
And even when it gets it wrong, if you feel like it's got the wrong take on it, even that's useful because you can go, no, that's actually not what I was getting at. But like now I feel closer to what I was actually getting at. So like AI, building scripts, I built a website with it that I just put on my server that's got like 30,000 active users. Like, it's like a little
It's a test website. I saw you post about that.
Yeah. It's a little tool that lets you watch TikToks without having the app. So
wait, what? You built that with AI?
AI. So, and that's the kind of thing that I probably could have struggled to build myself over a couple of days, but I probably built it in 90 minutes, registered the domain, put it on my existing service, my personal website. So it cost me $10 US. And then, now it's got like 30,000 active users.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. The weekend little idea turns into something real when it would have taken years before.
Yeah, so that's it. It's like a lot of time AI is letting you kind of live out those ideas and build things in a way that you couldn't before, which is cool.
Absolutely. Definitely. Alrighty, let's switch gears. I know we spoke a lot about AI and there's heaps of juicy nuggets in what we just said, including negative SEO. Please use that responsibly and do not negative SEO your competitors. But Sam, you've worked in SEO for nearly a decade now.
Yeah.
If a business owner said to you, like, I'm not really considering SEO, I'm not really like a big believer in SEO, what would you say to that business owner that isn't using or considering building on their SEO?
Yeah, like I think it depends on the business. I just caught myself saying it depends. But I think it depends on the business because I think sometimes agencies can sell SEO to businesses that like maybe don't need it. Like say you got a brand new website in a really competitive niche. It's like maybe you want to wait 6 months, 12 months or something like that, focus on kind of PR or social or, like I think what I would say to a business owner that is maybe confused about the use of SEO, I would say that it is useful in two main ways that are probably more akin to like traditional marketing. That if you're trying to grow a business, I think it would probably resonate with you a little bit more. The first one being developing brand awareness, again, like particularly top of funnel, middle of funnel stuff, like seeing that logo, building those remarketing lists, establishing familiarity. Like again, if you're top of mind, you're much more likely to purchase. And then the second one is as a point of distribution. Okay, so it's like when you go to a bar and you say you want like a cola, for example, what brand would you expect them to have? Coke, probably most of the time, and then maybe sometimes Pepsi. So if you want a cola, you're going to be drinking Coke, and that's because they focus so aggressively on branding and on distribution. SEO is a channel of distribution in the way that you buy what's in front of you and more likely what's familiar as well. So if I search for running shoes and the top result is like Hockers, and I've heard of Hockers, I'm just so much more likely to purchase them. So really you have to look at, okay, what's the volume for these terms? What's the potential market opportunity? And you just have to look at it as a source of distribution. And I also think like going back to my first point of like not overselling SEO, like it's part of an overall marketing strategy. And sometimes it's not the best way to distribute a product, but in some instances there might just be, a huge potential to reach people that are like directly in market and they want that product. They trust Google results because they know that it's like algorithmically driven and that it's a good product because search is a product at the end of the day. So like if somebody's searching for shoes are at the top of the result, like it has huge commercial value. So I probably explain it that way. Like it's just, I think we forget that as SEOs, like it really is just kind of traditional marketing and brand awareness and distribution,
Yeah, definitely.
I got a hot take on this.
Give me that hot take.
Because the last few weeks, it's been funny. There's this weird click moment that happened. Even in myself, I went, you know what? SEO is still the channel to me because when we've got clients asking, and even through the sales process, saying, "Is SEO still worth doing? Is it still worth the investment?" I'm hearing a lot on YouTube that it's dying, and it's like, guys, seriously, Google still has the market share on most search, like majority, we're talking like 95%. Even if deep down to 89%, there are still billions of users going through.
It's like
Google.
97% in Africa.
It's
93% in Australia.
Oh my God, OpenAI is growing so much. They went from like 800 users to 1,600 users. Oh my God, this is crazy.
So to your point, if it's another channel and you want visibility on that channel, and all the metrics of what may make a website appear at the top of an LLM as a cited source are really lined up to credibility, brand. It's is the website worth its weight in salt?
Yeah.
Worth its weight in gold, sorry. But yeah, and I just went, look, I even like wrote a piece, and we're putting out some more communications through our sales process, and clients like, you still have to optimize your website. You still have to build it out well. You still have to create content. We had a client asking, is it still worth uploading content? I'm like, what is going on in the what is going on in the market where people are thinking it's not worth producing content, whether it be written, which I still think is very powerful, and it's a necessity at this stage in the fundamentals of topical authority, but also video content and other social media platforms. They're building up seem to be very, very important as part of that SEO process. So to me, it's just like, continue doing SEO. In fact, I would really consider double downing into it, because unless someone's cracked the code truly on the LLMs, which are now also expanding at an accelerated rate, you're better off just doing SEO now to set yourself up for the future. Yeah, that's my piece on it.
No, I totally agree as well with Lawrence. Like, just from my own personal experience, we took Tyler, brand new business, literally just quit his job, had no Google My Business profile or website, built him a new website, GMB was live. And then we took him in the first month of doing SEO. I think he made 5K from contracting jobs. Yeah. In the second month, he made 17K just from getting leads coming through his website and Google My Business profile. And in the third month, he made 60K in pipeline. So that's 60K of quoted jobs in his third month.
Yeah. So, is he worried about LLMs at the moment, or is he worried about doing his tiling jobs?
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely works. It's just, I think it depends on who's doing it for you. Like, a lot of people, when they look at SEO, it doesn't work if you don't have all the pieces in order. Like, SEO is a tool that allows you to get in front of the right people. But then you also need to then build trust and credibility, and then you need to get them to convert. So then what you really need is you need to get to the top of Google. You need to get as many eyeballs as you can. Then you need to refine your website so the stuff on your website makes sense to the person you're trying to sell to. Oh, this person has what I want. I get it because the design makes sense. The copywriting is good. They're speaking my language. And then the final part is like, they make it easy for me to transact. So that's like, they've got book now buttons all over the website, or their checkout process is really smooth. It doesn't look dodgy. It's trustworthy. It's fast. If you don't have all those pieces in check, like if you just did great SEO, but your website looks terrible, the copy is horrendous and it's clearly keyword stuffed, everyone that comes on is just going to bounce. And then you're going to be like, SEO doesn't work. SEO is dead. It's not that SEO is dead. It's that you're missing the other components that make
you haven't covered off the fundamentals.
You're sounding like a paid person as well, where the business owner is like, I've spent all this money and I haven't got any conversions, and it's maybe more of a website and CRO thing. Like, I think as well, to speak to what you're saying, it's like, if I want a local plumber, I'm not going to go to an LLM, and be like, maybe you could see it maybe. Yeah. At the moment, I still think like there's a lot of inertia. So people still will use Google Maps, or they'll Google like plumbers near me and stuff like that. Like, I can see a future maybe where that changes as the modality of search changes and it becomes more ambient. Like, I think we saw that with, do you remember or it's still going, actually, I should remember, but the Humane pin? Like, it's like a AI pin that you strap to you, and it projected onto your hand, and you spoke to it and said, how many calories are in this? And it would like look at like the almonds in your hands and stuff like that. Wow, that's crazy. And it's like the product was kind of panned a little bit, and it was criticized like for not being a particularly good product. But like, their tagline is like, see the world, not your screen. So I do think there's a future. It's just like, why would I go to the computer to read a recipe, for example, when I can just chat with Siri and it will read it out to me and pause and wait for me, and I'm like, okay, what next? Something like that. Like, how much wine am I deglazing this pan with, or whatever, Yeah. Or like, you're driving somewhere and you're in your car and you go, okay, what's the fastest route to XYZ? Like, that's a better experience. And I think maybe that's the future, but at the moment, I think there's inertia, and SEO is still very valuable, and it's like in the 10 blue links form. And the only thing that's really being affected maybe is things like AI overviews and zero-click searches, like those kind of informational sites that weren't like it's a much better result for it to be 0 click in the first place,
To your point, I also think we live in an echo chamber of being at the forefront of SEO, digital marketing,
And also wanting to defend it. Like, we're not biased. We're not biased. What do you guys think? Should we still invest in SEO?
very lost in the source. I got a quote for some blinds recently, and they sent me an email and asked me to direct deposit them through the email. So I have to manually go through and do the deposit to them. I'm like, you don't have a Xero? You don't have a pay now link?
Yep.
They're not worried about LLMs. They're not worried about SEO even, or even their business ops. There's so many businesses so far behind the curve that have no idea that ChatGPT even exists, that optimizing for it now, I'm really worrying about that. Yeah, it should be on your mind, but we're still a little bit further away. And the best channels to use are the ones you have now, and just really promoting them, really double downing into them around, using the resources you have.
I think to build on like why SEO is still important, even with the future of AI, is I think there's two main reasons. Like, one is LLMs need to get the information from somewhere. And at the end of the day, you need to make your website accessible not only to a human, but to the robot. If the LLM cannot read your website, it cannot suggest your website when it pulls up search options, when someone's using it to search for whatever. I think the other piece is people like adventure and exploration. So you can look at online shopping now. It's become huge. It was very small in the beginning, but people still go to the shops because people like to browse. People like to look, and they like to assess the options at their own pace.
Have a bubble tea,
Yeah.
Love a bubble.
Get a pastry.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think LLMs are going to be used for a lot of convenience. When you want something fast, you want a quick answer. But for those who like to browse, I think there's always going to be an element.
To ponder.
Yeah, they like to wander. Like, they don't want to just be given the answer. They want to see what's out there that they might not be considering, because your world is only with an LLM is only as big as your knowledge base, because you need to know what to prompt the LLM with. But if your knowledge base, exactly, if your imagination is really small, then like the only way to expand it is to wander, right? And if it's really small, then your world with LLMs is also going to be really small, because LLMs can only give you what you want.
You're thinking very philosophically about this. It's almost like I think there's a book that came out, just like, it's called Mood Machine, and it's like Spotify and the cost of the perfect playlist. And there's almost like this shrinking of people's like curiosity with music, because everything's being fed to them kind of algorithmically. So so right, because the algorithm gives you what you already like, so you just get in this echo chamber of seeing more stuff that you like. But then where's the exploration? Like, what about the stuff you're not even aware of? The
best source of any information or trust is people, right? People around you. If you recommend me some music, I'm going to trust that more than going through an LLM exploration, probably. But that's how most business works. It's just people talking about the business well. And my big stance on it is people are going to come down to, people just like to communicate with people. We're social creatures. Whether or not, it's really easy and convenient to ask an AI what to do today. I'd rather go ask you guys, hey, do you want to go get some lunch or something like that? It just doesn't, to me, I'm not too threatened by it. I'm ready to embrace it as part of the human experience.
I think like I have a different take, but I'd say I'm really optimistic about the future of SEO. And I think SEOs are going to have to grow, and like the role of SEO is going to expand, because I do see a future where people interact with LLMs a lot more, and they have conversations around, what are the best running shoes for XYZ, and you have like a little bit of a conversation. But I still think like to your point, you still have to provide that training data. And I think SEOs, like, it becomes like less about those 10 blue links and more about, the website, but also creating authority across like an entire brand and the collective presence that acts as that training data. So I think that the role of SEO actually becomes less kind of niche and about gaming the algorithm, and more about building that brand online and influencing like this whole corpus of information about who you are and what you do. And I think it's going to become harder, but I think it's going to become more all-encompassing and maybe even more important.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, we covered a lot of stuff in this session. We got into philosophy, negative SEO, backlinks, and AI. But Sam, if our audience wants to get into touch with you, where can they find you? Where do you live online?
I think the best place to find me is probably on LinkedIn. Sam Penny on LinkedIn. Don't get me confused with the guy who's like a cheesemonger and he does competitive swimming. I think he's actually number one at the top of the surf.
Wait, we're one of that guy too.
I'm not a 60-year-old cheesemonger, although he looks pretty cool. Get me on LinkedIn, and happy to chat to anybody and do more podcasts and have good conversations like this. Like, I appreciate being invited.
Nice. Me? Where can you find me? Or
Oh, yeah. We're pros at this, clearly.
Clearly. Lawrence Hitches on LinkedIn as well. I'm doing a little newsletter called Soaring Above Search, where I'm doing some celebrity SEO stories. So I did one on Kanye. We were talking about that recently. Kim got Elon coming out about his rebrand to X. So yeah, it's just fun to merge the celebrity brand with SEO and see what's going on there.
Can I give you one as well?
Yeah, what do you got?
Do you remember Boris Johnson?
Yes.
Like how he was campaigning for Brexit and he was standing in front of this red bus that said, like the UK loses £300 million per week to the EU because he wanted us to leave the EU. And then a couple months later, he was trying to distance himself from that image and he started saying that he paints buses in his spare time. And all the news reports were like, Boris Johnson paints buses in his spare time. And it pushed down the result of him in front of that leave the EU bus with that figure that was like contentious. So that's a funny one where he's probably advised to do that by some kind of agency with an SEO lens.
I'm going to investigate that one. That sounds awesome.
That sounds interesting. That sounds like a really interesting newsletter as well. Make sure you guys subscribe. Lastly, as you guys know, my name is Patrick. If you want to reach me, you can find me at leadingleads.com.au or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, thank you, Sam, so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. Had a really fun time.
We did as well. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.